terminology of using on this for the meeting. So this roundtable discussion with Congressman Stauber's Field Representative Miranda Jansen, right? Yep. I call this meeting to order at 6:05. We better stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
Since we call it to order.
Sounds good.
Kind of seems like a hot
Yes.
topic, actually. Oh, yep. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Trump will be happy for you.
Yep. Well, as long as I don't end up in his Twitter feed, we'll be fine. So I want to thank you for coming to Princeton, and not only coming here, but also, reaching out to us. We know that for our community, we're on the bottom of Congressman Stauber's district, and still yet he reached out, or had you reach out to us as an important part of the district as a whole, and so we really appreciate that. You are the southern neighbor in the district.
Yeah, well, Princeton is home to me, so it's very important that I'm able to be here and talk to you guys about Princeton expanding and the issues or concerns that you might have that our office can help with.
Yeah.
Pete's office is a rural office, so the city of Princeton being a rural community, it's important for us to reach all parts of our district, and being the most southern, it doesn't mean you're the last.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us to make sure that we can help you and assist your offices in any way possible.
Yeah. Kind of I'll start with the topic that we had talked about at the city council level. The city of Princeton actually splits between your district and then Congressman Emmer's district. And so for our community, we also split between the two counties. And in our county, if you're in Mille Lacs County, you can buy cigarettes and vaping material on one side or the other. Well, our neighbors in Isani County, went to no smoking.
Yep.
Where if that follows suit here in Princeton with one of our two counties, we're going to have to be really reactive. You know what I mean? We're not trying to act first, but we're trying to make sure that we're the most prepared. And so I just kind of weigh that out on one of our concerns. You know what I mean? To be so we're not behind, but we're actually ahead of the process.
And what kind of discussion have you had around that T21 ordinance?
So we had said, we've had to kind of go back to the chief of police here, because, for the Princeton School District, going through like that process with the 18-year-olds, or let him kind of discuss it. But we discuss it as a city council.
Okay.
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, we know we have a problem, and we're trying to. I mean, we've been doing the education piece for a number of years from the police department standpoint, but also from the school standpoint. And I think it's working, but I don't think it's working enough to where we're seeing a noticeable decrease in use. With what the mayor is talking about in regards to the counties, I think we're in a really unique situation, because if, per se, Sherburne County says we're going to do this, we then have to figure out how to handle Mille Lacs County, because we have that split going on. So in an ideal situation, we would love for the backing from a lot of different people to get both counties on board. I mean, obviously, I think we want as many counties on board as possible, but for us to be somewhat selfish, I think it's important that we get Sherwood and Mille Lacs to be on board with this together, which then takes our whole city into play.
Right.
Do we absolutely know what the answer is? No, I don't think we're going to ever know that. I think we just keep plugging away. I do think that looking at that whole sale of tobacco or the vaping and pieces like that, we certainly can establish the fact that kids that are still 18 years of age in the school districts, whether it's Princeton or a different community, are buying stuff, and it's filtering down to the 15, the 14-year-olds, and the 13-year-olds. And if that's an educational piece, that's important, but I think it's also an enforcement piece at some point in time where we need to be a little bit stricter with this, and that's what we're hoping that Minnesota can move forward with this.
Are you looking more from the e-cigs, vaping, or cigarettes, or both?
I think there's a problem on all the levels. We are seeing a noticeable increase in the e-cigs and the vaping. I think the problem that we're having right now is that we're struggling with what's being put into the e-cigs and the vaping. It's very difficult for us to know or find those pieces of paraphernalia. We've had some medical cases now over the course of the last probably 6 months that have involved kids being rushed to the hospital from a medical standpoint because I don't think they necessarily knew what they were putting into the vaping piece.
Were they in the schools at this time? Or?
They were, yes. And we actually, Cambridge had a situation where it involved a multitude of kids that got rushed to the hospital. We were able to link some of those kids to our kids here. And we had the same, not as large of a scale as they did, but the same type of medical situations where kids were passing out on us. Kids were having different medical conditions, whether it was respiratory or maybe getting some sort of irregular heartbeat of some kind, which would tell us that it's laced with some sort of drug that unfortunately we have no idea where it came from.
So on a city level, are you looking at putting in a T21 ordinance and an e-cig ordinance on the city level, or are you waiting for the counties to do their part?
Or the federal government, I
Or the
think,
federal.
was it Mitch McConnell that, did I put that together in the packet that I gave? I don't know if it was Mitch. It was somebody in the Fed had introduced it.
Okay.
And they were pretty proponent of it. I took the article from there that they had talked about and I put that into our meeting minutes to talk about it, to be prepared. You know, we want to be prepared.
Right.
In case we get split, if it gets split in the crosshairs, it's part of the process, but it's, I think the council's here, so I mean, we're missing one, but the process was, we weren't looking to jump on board first. We wanted to make sure we followed right behind with whatever happens.
Okay.
And somebody else can speak to that. But that's-
And I think it was easier when I think it's been a few years now with the social host ordinance that was passed. It made it easier of a transition when we had counties jumping on board that were around us or located next to us. It becomes difficult to enforce stuff if we start looking at geographical lines as far as, you know, I jumped from Mille Lacs County side to Sherburne County side in a matter of 20 feet. Am I in violation or not in violation? And so I think it's a lot of those same lines. I mean, I would love to see the counties take after this and then the city support, hopefully.
So with Iceni County, they have their T21 ordinance passed, but the city of Cambridge itself has not passed theirs.
Yep.
So I guess from the chief, how has the Iceni County ordinance affected the city of Princeton? Has more moved in? Have you seen an uprise?
I don't know if we have. I don't know if it's been a long enough time to know if there's been any appropriate statistical value to whether they've moved over or they haven't moved over. I'm not sure. I don't think we can answer that just yet.
And how many places do we have in the city of Princeton where cigarettes or e-cigs are sold?
We split pretty evenly between the Sherburne County side and the Mille Lacs County side with the service stations on both sides. I think the e-cig, that's in Mille Lacs, it's real close to the Catholic. You know what I'm talking about? It's in the laundromat.
Right by the laundromat, next to the
it's Mille Lacs
laundromat.
County.
And that's Mille Lacs County, but
The
that's like
tobacco
the tobacco
shop.
shop is Mille Lacs County side.
There's one in the mall too.
Yeah, there's one in the mall.
And the mall, that's
All
Mille
the
Lacs County.
convenience stores, like you said, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're in all the stores, all the gas stations.
Yeah.
We do not sell the e-cigarettes at the liquor store, but we do sell tobacco, so.
Mhm. And so a lot of that, I think, might be when you come to the Iceni side, whether it's the city of Iceni working with Zimmerman, you know, like where they would take a county road across if they were gonna go or go through there, you know what I mean? And so I think that's something that they have to work on, but, you know, if one county, our neighboring county, opts to do it, you can sure bet that their county commissioners are talking to our county commissioners, and they're, you know, kind of seeing how it's going, and then obviously it'll domino effect across the process. And so that was part of the thing that we just wanted to
Yeah,
express.
definitely.
You know what I mean? We're on your farther southern border,
Yes.
but we're splitting, and so we got some crosshair stuff there.
Yeah, no, that's important to know. And I know from Pete's standpoint, he agrees with the T21 ordinance and doesn't support marijuana use for any legalization of it. So from our standpoint, like, we're here to help you, and I'll definitely look into that federal government side of things and see where we can go from there.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know Administrator Barbian had he's got number 2 there on the.
You bet. So one of the things that I've noticed since I've been up here and I've been hearing comments on, and that is a lack of industrial spaces and a consideration of, say, development of an industrial area. I wanted to, in particular, check to see what your office might be able to do in connecting this up with, say, some of the EDA programs that would be in support of creating something like that. You know, being on the southern end of the district, Mille Lacs County is kind of a very eligible county, but we're in Sherburne County too, which was set, which maybe not as eligible, but yet it's adjacent to our current park. And I think there's a couple of different possible areas that might be of great interest if there would be some type of programs to support that effort.
Yeah, I can definitely get you connected with the EDAs around the area.
Not the EDA, I'm looking for trying to think of the program that funds industrial parks. No, it's a federal organization that has funds for industrial parks.
You're looking at
SBA.
going above the state.
EDA,
to the
it's the
federal.
EDA.
It is the EDA or it
Or
is
SBA.
It is, but it's not a local EDA.
I mean, we are connected, we're not
It's a
local.
USDA, excuse me,
USDA, okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I can definitely work on getting you a contact for that.
USDA. Well, I want more than a contact.
Well, yes, moving forward from that, we do have an office assistant at our offices that does funds and grants. He's a project manager. So if you have projects that you're looking at right now, space that you're looking at purchasing right now for an industrial park, I'd love to put you in contact with them. And he can help you search for specific grants. He can go on a wider base and help you look for just industrial park grants altogether. Do you know what kind of businesses have come forward and asked for space? Or?
We do.
Okay, so we do have a plan kind of sorted out. So I can definitely put you in contact with them. And then moving forward from that, county-wise, is it Mille Lacs or Sherburne?
Well, depends how it
Either or.
has to be.
Okay.
You see, that was the part of the option that we have. You tell us which one, and we'll make it happen on either
Okay.
side of the border.
Well, there's actually, could be either one, so
Okay.
both actually is very true, to be honest.
We just had a question, or I don't know if it links here or not, but we did fund our sewer expansion through the USDA, correct? So is there a link there to where Bob is talking about?
Behind you. It
Well,
wasn't.
right, I mean, that program was rural, it was part of Rural Waters program, so we did get grant and loan funding through them. I think what Bob is, it'd probably be a different division because of the expansion
Right.
of development area, but, so it, you know, it's probably the same umbrella, but just a different division, so.
I know it's a program that has been used in many different rural areas, not necessarily, say Metro Twin Cities really has not been used, but some of the rural areas, they have that eligibility hurdles that have to be passed, and evidently in the, rural areas it is doable. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely put you in contact with them and ask them specifically for grants and.
Well, you said you had somebody in the office that
Yep, and
that
I'll
works
ask
this
my
program?
office, not with the program, we just have our own separate projects, grants and management person. So for any type of grant you're
Yep.
applying for, that's what our person would do, and they write letters of support on behalf of Pete and make sure that our office is assisting you in whatever process you're trying to find funding for.
We'd love to have Pete there for ribbon cut.
Wonderful. Have you had any contact with Emmer's office about the industrial park at all?
Emmer's office reached out, and we're thankful they reached out. You're more aggressive in your process to reach out and sit down with us, and so we're still working on Emmer's office side of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll put in a side note and,
You were faster and more aggressive, just however you want to come over to it, but it's doing very good. His representative did reach out to our city too.
Okay.
And so, but you fantastic job on that for us.
thank you.
And so, and on that USDA, when we did the grant and the loan at the sewer plant, that all worked all the way through the positive reviews from the beginning to the end of that.
Yep.
And we used the money and did it all within the time period that was given when it was allotted to use to the end.
And what did that grant look like?
And go back to the
Well,
finance director, Steve Jackson.
The loan was the biggest part of the package, probably was around 15 million. The grant was, I think, about 900,000. So,
Okay. And was any of that like a local match?
No,
Okay.
it was, other than the city had to assume the responsibility that if we used up all
Right.
the funding, we'd have to complete the project.
Right.
But we didn't really have to come up with much up front. We did get some state monies also for some phosphorus reduction, that we kind of put it all together as part of the package.
Okay. And talking statewide, have you had any contact with Sandra Erickson or Andrew Matthews?
Yep, so,
Okay.
Sandra Erickson.
And pretty familiar with, we've had contact with Sandra Erickson and very familiar with the DEEP programs that are able
Okay.
to fund infrastructure. This is a rather large infrastructure project. If it would be more than just curing some of the deficit or improvements that are going to be needed for our park, but also to be able to have more grounds available for some of the growth that's in the area.
Okay.
That's what we want to do, is be able to take care of not only our own local, grow our own, but also be able to handle additional needs.
And Representative Erickson did come to City Hall, and she did set up, do you remember what she called it? She brought up multiple people from the state to go through there and give their different offices, and so we were able to do that, and it was a community-wide project. I know that like there was multiple organizations that came, because the nonprofits were included in that
Right.
process, and so it was, the room was pretty full that day. I believe it, I don't want to say it was standing room only, but it was full here.
Right.
That was very good for that process, for her to do that.
Wonderful. So yeah, I will reach out to Emmer's office. I will get us connected with the USDA and with their grants person, as well as our office's grants person. Pete's all for rural expansion of businesses, small businesses, industrial. So you have our full support moving forward.
Perfect. Do you write something down that you wanted to?
Oh, no, I'm just taking notes.
Okay. And so that was our couple items that we had. Anything from standpoint over here?
Things that are crossing my mind is, and I know, like when we have projects with highways and state aid roads and that sort of thing. But when it comes to city streets, we're a city under 5,000 people. And I'm always here that we, cannot get funding at a state level for city streets, for improvements, for curbs and gutters and whatever it takes to improve the water runoffs and all that sort of thing. What would the federal, is there federal grants, would there be any agencies or agencies that could come and help in that area? Streets, parks, I know, those are all local issues, state issues, but what does the federal government have available for us in that area?
I don't know specifically. I haven't had any relationship in that area. But again, our grants and projects manager would know. So at the end of this meeting, I'll make sure that I have a full list of what you guys are looking for. And he can definitely make sure that if there's federal funding out there, that you're on top of it and making sure that when deadlines do come up.
Yeah, because we're in a major park improvement in Princeton right now. And, we have some nice grants available from the state that we're getting, really to improve them, camping You know, we're trying to make Princeton more of a destination. And anything that Congressman could do to, you know, help us in that area. I think that's really, you know, where we want to enhance the, not enhance, but utilize the river more here. We have a beautiful scenic river, and we have a few projects going, and I think that'd be, you know, I mean, I know he's federal, but
I'm sure
we're local here.
there's something out
There's
there
got to be
that we
something
can
there
help
that
you
your
with.
office can help us with.
Yeah.
You know, maybe even write a grant for us, that'd be nice.
Or get us in touch with the person who's
Great.
really good that's gonna win the grant.
Yeah, yeah, there you go,
Work on
the
that.
contacts, I think the mayor hit on, had the contacts for us.
That's
Okay.
gonna
Help
help
us
with
in that
it.
area, you know, that'd be nice.
And we are, you know, thankful for the, you know, the federal grant that we did receive on the municipal airport. And that, I mean, for that process, you know, we're still in the undertaking of it. It hasn't been completed, but we are undertaking that.
Yep, our bids came in today for
Okay, yeah, that's where it's going.
reconstruction of the runway, and bids came in low, so we saved you guys some money.
Wonderful.
And that project is, you know, set to start, like we have a start date already put into that process that we had said after the, you know, for the airport, because it does draw people, you know, to our community.
Right.
And then, you know, just what Councilor Jules said, you know, to get them to stay here. You know, once they come here, we just want to, you know, capture them folks to stay here and, you know, enjoy our city. You know, that's kind of what it comes down to, so.
Right. Wonderful.
It's a very nice city.
It is very nice.
We'd love to see Congressman Stopper here.
Congressman Stopper here, yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess I would like to know what specifically Stauber is working on that might be relevant to our area. I guess what are his main committees?
Yeah, so Pete is on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and that's because he has all 5 forms of transportation in his district. So not only does the transportation and infrastructure include buildings, projects for streets and highways and things like that, but it also includes broadband. So specifically rural broadband. We talk about being served, underserved, and not served at all. And we're finding that our maps on the federal side are not up to date. We have maps saying that people are served when they're not served, and are underserved are labeled as underserved, but they can't get on their computers and call out at the same time. So for Pete's eyes, that is huge to him. He's working on a lot of bills right now. He has one with Peterson working on broadband. And that specifically is to help the rural broadband expansion. For that, it's his words always are, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And to see our rural communities expand because of broadband is, I think, where we're headed next. You can't ask somebody to move out into the Princeton area and not have internet access to their house. We're seeing it affecting schools, hospitals, city growth, businesses. And so for that fact, on the business level, Pete's a small business owner, so he is also on the small business subcommittee. And from that side, it's really about making sure that our small businesses on the rural side are supported and they're not getting run out by these 500 companies and not being able to run in their cities themselves.
Yeah, you know, you talked about broadband, and you know, we're working on a project with our emergency services, you know, with 911, improving our radio communications for our officers and firefighters and ambulance personnel to be able to communicate better within buildings and that sort of thing. And there might come a time, I don't know, where we may need funding for that to maybe the chief can address that a little bit here.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously we're, is it fair to say we're hopefully in the final stages of I don't know how to put it.
I think we are.
Hopefully we are, but I think, you know, once that, hopefully that the tower comes up, you know, first then is obviously a federally funded program that helps public safety. The unfortunate thing with that is that once that tower goes up, then Mille Lacs County will have to then apply for grants to put equipment on the tower to allow us to have that final piece of that radio coverage. Everything is not necessarily going to be microwave type radio. It's all based off of now the internet and stuff like that. And so, just in a small town here, we struggle. We struggle to get out of certain buildings within our town from a radio broadcasting standpoint. We've had to enact certain policies and procedures to put people at doors to try to relay out. I have school officers right now that if something were to happen in the schools, they can't get out on the radio. And so, the tower's been a difficult project, but we are hopefully coming close to the end with it. But yeah, at some point.
Mr. Stopper might take a real interest in that, what you just said, because he's ex-police officer with Duluth, so I think. Yeah, so I think if you mention that to him, he might take an interest in that. Just ask him, can you imagine yourself in the school and something's going on and you can't communicate?
And some of those buildings in Duluth, though, remember the walls are real thick. You're cemented into a room of a process that where you could be in that process.
And I think part of the opinion, part of the answers that a lot of people got for many years were, put those smaller little antennas, those enhancement antennas within buildings. The school here looked at that. It was just way too expensive for them to afford that, especially if you had a plan for it and it's an old school or it's an old building. So I don't necessarily think it's fair for us to tell a business, let's take for example USDP or Crystal Cabinets or even the school district to contact their local cell phone provider and pay for these tower boosters, so to speak, to allow the signal to go out, when in essence it's a little bit of a combination where we need it. It would help them because obviously then we can help them. So there's still quite a large expense to getting these pockets, so to speak, up to date. But schools by far, it's alarming when dispatch is trying to get over to the school officer and nobody's answering, and we're calling into the school asking to look for them, and we're sending officers there trying to find them because we've had this situation where they've been in a fight in the basement locker room just because they couldn't get out on the radio. So yeah, I think Councilmember Zimmer is exactly right that there's a huge need for that.
And just to kind of add to it, so what the city has done is work to say strategize with AT&T to get a tower up, which would be the base where the communication equipment would be set in this area and to serve this area. And what's the communication equipment that would be on the tower? Does it have some kind of name or something? Or?
For the public safety piece of it?
Yeah,
it's FirstNet, so we would put the software up there that was FirstNet, along with Mille Lacs County adding another tower, or I shouldn't say tower, antenna, to give us a better signal within our community or the south end of the county. So the antenna that's going to go up would probably benefit, I would say, and Ron, who's hiding back there in the corner, can probably, I think it would be fair to say that when this tower goes up and then we start applying for grants, you're going to see, if we get everything, you'll see a benefit from State Patrol, North Ambulance, Isani County, Sherburne County, Mille Lacs County, the city of Princeton. Literally every public safety entity within this area have better radio coverage.
So it's not only FirstNet, it's also
the actual radio piece of the county oversees.
And what's your current internet provider in the city?
From Sioux Falls.
We have a couple, we have Midco.
And CenturyLink. Are they focusing on, as far as broadband, are they still focusing on the fiber optics, or are they, 5G? That's going to, I know with a fiber optic, they can spend millions on just a township.
Right, so they're talking fiber to the home, they're talking 5G. Right now there's no really solid plan. Right now it's getting those internet companies to own up to what they haven't provided.
Sure, it'd be nice if there was a fiber map that was similar to the phone line so that other companies could use the fiber that's in the ground.
Yeah, yep.
Because there's so many different fiber companies and systems that nobody even knows who's where.
Because they don't have to share, it's not.
They don't have to share, you can't, they just had a line go up 35W, put in fiber copper all the way up there and nobody can get access to it.
Right, they don't share the lines.
Right.
That's what we've been working with some, and discussing with some fiber companies, is we just to see where we have fiber, but it's really hard for us
The
to
mapping
figure it out.
is really difficult
Because
because
we don't know, because nobody has access to anyone else's fiber network, so we think we have it in some parts, and we might not, we don't know.
In Mille Lacs County, the commissioners were talking about sending out a study to the county itself to see who's getting internet access and to test their speed. Have you had any communication with them about that?
no, there hasn't been.
Okay.
We've been working with fiber companies direct to see what they have in place. And again, I think what Mike was found out is that different fiber companies have different mapped areas, and it's the lack of being able to use each other's fiber that creates barriers in itself. That's the biggest barrier that we found.
And we are trying to be proactive when working with these companies now and looking at our upcoming road projects so that we can be, in the 20 whatever century we're going into, and trying to plan ahead, because then we can put the conduit in so that they can put the fiber, even if it's just getting the tubing in.
It's kind of an interesting challenge because, and the federal government is in this business because they're choosing who to fund, and they're funding companies that each have their own monopoly. It doesn't, and I guess that's what you're choosing to do.
And that's where we're trying to move out of, from that monopoly. We need competition in order for rural broadband to expand.
Well, if you need competition, but does everybody need to own their own line?
And
They're
that's
two different animals.
That's a conversation that they've had, but at the same time, the biggest barrier that we're seeing right now is our citizens who have broadband willing to pay for the citizens who don't have broadband. So it comes down to, is it going to be an individual paying for their broadband, or is it going to be the city or the county all chipping in to pay for the people who don't have broadband? So funding-wise, we're working hard to make sure that the funding that we are putting towards broadband is being used specifically for broadband, and specifically that rural broadband piece.
And that's what we're hoping to get some of the access to the funds that they're providing for broadband by planning ahead. Like, so that we can find out where our gaps are and use our projects wisely, like our road projects and other infrastructure.
And I would agree, and I think that is the strategy, and that's the strategy that you're taking, but I think then they also, so you take a look at the model that was creating for the electrical system. How was that system created where it opened up and prevented monopolies from setting
Like
up?
you said, it's not, a luxury, it's a necessity now, so it needs to be looked at like electric, and it should be put in with it. So being proactive and planning with these projects is what we're trying to do here to make this a place to grow.
Right, and I know from our office, we've looked at that electric law itself and have interchanged broadband or internet into that. And that's something that we might look further into putting forward for the same reason that we've supplied utilities to everybody, we've supplied mail to everybody, so.
It's kind of doing both now.
Right.
Because it's information and service.
Right.
Well, I think if you talk about just the internet, in this area, it's unfortunate, but the schools have had a big issue. When they disseminate information, just for my kids, you have to ask the question of, do you have internet accessibility at your house? And if you don't, that leads into a tier of questions of, would you like it in the mail, or would you like to come and pick it up? And I mean, we've moved forward with so much technology where you see schools, or even us with trying to get messages out on a public safety standpoint, from Facebook to Twitter to all those different social media sites. If people don't have internet, it makes it very difficult nowadays. We tease Tim, but right, we gotta have the paper, The newspaper's, Yes, I agree. We gotta have those people that can still get hard copies of stuff, because there are people in this area that don't have the accessibility to have internet at their house.
Right. And what was your name, sorry?
Stephanie.
Yep,
Okay.
and that was part, I apologize up
You're
front for
okay.
that. So I'll let Stephanie introduce and give her her title, and then this is, yeah.
I'm the community development specialist here. I think I have my email there.
No, he's Councilor Zimmer,
I'm
he just doesn't have his
and
name
Jules.
tag on yet.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and Jules Zimmer, I'm a council.
I'm Nancy Campbell, a manager of the Princeton Municipal Liquor Store.
Yep. And then our fire chief for our fire district.
Ron Lawrence.
Nice to meet you.
And then the rest of us, Administrator Barbian, Finance Director Steve Jackson, City Council Member
Yeah,
Jackman.
You probably don't remember me, I met you Monday. Up in
Yes,
Black.
yes, yes.
You were coming in and I was going up.
Yeah, it was very brief.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a plug for that. Congressman and her did visit our public transit facility Monday.
Oh, you did?
I wanted to hang around, but a lady lost her wallet and I had to go and retrieve it.
Jeff Reynolds, City Council.
Yep. And so we do, I mean, unless somebody else has other, we really appreciate you reaching out to us and being, firecracker at it and getting this process done. So we will look forward to continuing the conversation with you and going through those contexts, because we are, we as a group are willing to lead Mille Lacs County in the industrial business, and we have the room to do it, the expansion and the people. There's a lot of people here that, live here and work here. They don't all commute. And you have seen a process that we've seen where, people from Mille Lacs County are no longer going over to the St. Cloud because transportation allows them to get here, get the options to do commerce, and then go back through the same thing. And so we have a benefiting factor here in Princeton through the transportation that we already have to be able to service all of those people. And, as you know, if you're from here, it takes longer to get through St. Cloud than it takes to get to St. Cloud. And so you can save a whole bunch of process by just, coming here. And I think that the people of Mille Lacs County have found that too. Just with the process that we have coming directly off Highway 169, getting right onto 95, and the new roundabout, which we got federal dollars for, we appreciate that. And coming there, we have that land, and that land's available for that process. And we really would be, the driver of Mille Lacs County processing and serving all those residents. And so, from a growth standpoint, and that's where Administrator Barbian, emphasizes that.
Right. Well, from my end, if you all could just keep open communication with me about what's going on, anything that pops up that I may not hear, send those my way, especially when it comes to the industrial growth, broadband, the T21 ordinance, and I'll make sure to connect with each of you on the issues that we talked about today to make sure that you have contacts, grants that are available to you, and then making sure that we can get Emmer and Stopper out here together to meet with all of you and get on the same page.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.